following is a paid program of commercial time on KVNU. The information, offers, and claims are solely those of the sponsor and not the opinions of this station, its affiliates, management, or employees. It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Go! Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And it is the Garden Guide on this Saturday morning. Will Feel Right, along with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden. And Mark, you know, here we are. School begins next week, and I guess it's the end of summer.
Can you believe it?
It really, it almost, I can't say it flew by. It almost feels like it just never really happened.
There's that, too. There's been some unusual circumstances this year. But, yeah, and school seems like it's starting early this year, too.
Yeah.
I mean, 18th of August for Logan School District. It's awfully early. But, you know, it's a reminder that it's time to start harvesting things and start getting things ready for fall as well, too. So, God, we've got so many things we can talk about on the show today about, you know, planting new crops for fall. Great time to plant trees and shrubs. I know a lot of people have really struggled with their lawns this year. This is an excellent time to rejuvenate and incorporate some new grasses into your lawn as well, too. So we can talk about, you know, planting some new varieties that are more drought tolerant, more, you know, resistant to insects and diseases, so that you don't have to worry about watering so much next year.
You know, and we have really learned about how you can plant at different times this year. This summer was strange for our family because as soon as graduation was done for the high schools, our family immediately took off for a week and a half. And
right.
So because of that, we didn't end up planting our garden until the middle of June.
Right.
Which was really weird for us.
Yeah.
But
it's not late.
No,
it's
it
not late.
wasn't.
No.
And in fact, and then some of the plants, because that was right as the heat just really started to build.
Yeah.
And so we ended up replanting a few things. And so we had squash plants that just started producing this week. And so we've got squash everywhere, which normally is weird because this would be about mid-season for us, and we're just barely into harvesting.
Yeah. And you know, it's crazy that, you know, everybody thinks you got to plant the first part of May to be able to, you know, get a good harvest, and that's not the case with a lot of vegetables, because it's when the soil warms up and things really get going in June, you know, you can plant a lot of different things and they will harvest and they'll mature and be ready to harvest in a much shorter time than you would expect.
Yeah.
45 days on like a zucchini or a crookneck. 45 days,
Been quite a unique year, I think, all the way around. Not only garden, but then, as you mentioned, lawns. I'm sure it's just the question you're getting constantly of what can I do for my lawn?
Yeah. And a lot of people have realized this year that they can get by watering less than what they have in the past and still keep the lawn looking pretty good. You know, so but if we incorporate some more drought tolerant grasses into your turf, then all of a sudden it's going to stay greener longer with less water as well too. So.
And a lot of us are looking at ways that we can maybe water our gardens differently.
Yeah,
that was one of the things when I mentioned to my wife that I was going to be hosting the show. She said, "You've got to talk to Mark again about his drip line systems."
Yes,
and so a lot of us are looking at ways that we could maybe look at improving the way we water our gardens too. So.
And my soaker hoses have worked amazingly well this year, so it's been really good because we haven't had quite as much pressure. We've had to adjust our hoses a little bit, so we haven't had as much pressure, but the soaker hoses are working great. I just normally I've been able to do like 3 or 4 rows at a time. This year I've only been able to do 2 with a little bit lower pressure, and so it has worked great. I've just had to move a little bit more frequently than usual. So.
But you let them run for a couple of hours?
Oh, yeah.
It
It just works awesome. So some great things happening at Anderson Seed and Garden this weekend. So we are going to start our cash sale today. And so with our cash sale, trees and shrubs will be 35% off. And if you pay with cash, they will be an additional 15% off. So you get 50% off if you pay with cash. So that's our remaining trees, like shade trees, flowering trees, fruit trees. There's not a lot of fruit trees left, but we do have a nice selection of apples still. But then all of the deciduous shrubs, the flowering shrubs, the roses, the evergreens, they are all on sale for 35% off. And if you pay with cash, you can get that extra 15% and get that discount all the way up to half price. So,
and the cash sale, we explain because some people may say, cash,
yes.
what
exactly
is that? We're talking about the Benjamins with the presidents on it, or most of the presidents, and just presidents. So credit cards, it's not that you don't take credit cards and checks.
Yep. We can definitely do checks or credit cards, but you only get the 35%.
Right.
If you pay with cash, with the green bills that have presidents on them, then you get the 50% off. Yeah, absolutely. Venmo doesn't count.
Yeah.
The Venmo doesn't work.
All of those different other
And
methods.
when you're buying trees and shrubs, it has been hot. It's been stressful this year. But with our shade system that we've got there at the store and the way we hand water everything, all the plants, all the trees and shrubs, they look amazing. They look really great right now. And fall's a great time to plant. So anytime from now until the ground freezes in November is a great time to plant trees and shrubs. They'll get acclimated. They'll get established. They will be ready for winter, and they'll just perk right up and go like crazy for next spring.
And looking ahead at the forecast, it looks like we're now on that downward trend. Now we kind of, knock on wood, because
we could get
you
some
just
more hot
never
days.
know.
Yeah, but it's been a cool.
But the trend is starting to go down.
It's been a cool August already.
Yes,
and you can feel it at night.
Oh.
So we went to the concert at the Heritage Center the other night for the Utah Symphony. Awesome, amazing concert. It was great, and I was wishing I had a sweater. I was like, you know what? I could use a jacket. And it was only like 9:30 at night, and here we are in the middle of August, and you can feel that chill in the air already. So, but to go along with our trees and shrubs, planting in the fall is great, but we also do offer our 5-year guarantee as well too. So if you're buying these trees at a discount, at half price, if you pay with cash, you can still get our 5-year guarantee. So the way our 5-year guarantee works is if you buy a tree or shrub that qualifies for the guarantee, so it's a zone 5 or less, depending on where you live. If you live in Bear Lake, then we have to go zone 4 because you're a zone 4. Yeah. But, zone 5 or less. And if you buy a root stimulator like Kanga Roots for our organic package, or the Fertilome root stimulator for our traditional package, and a container of mic, and the mic will cover a certain number of trees or shrubs, depending on which size you get. But if you buy the mic and you buy the root stimulator, we'll give you a 5-year guarantee on your plants. So if you, for some reason, you have trouble with them, your plants will be guaranteed for 5 years. It's not guaranteed against lawnmowers or weed
whackers,
or the neighbor's kids running into it with a bicycle, or the horses in the corral got loose and decided to eat the trees down to the doesn't cover that.
Yeah, because you've heard it all. I'm sure
we've heard a lot of things, but it's nice to have that extra security. It's quite inexpensive, and if you do the 5-year guarantee, you'll get a full refund on what you purchased. Say you bought a tree that was regularly $100, got it for $50. You buy the 5-year guarantee to go with it. You'll get, if for some reason you have to get a return on that tree, you'll get a full credit to use towards another tree. Yeah. So
great deal.
Just can't beat that. Yeah, can't beat that. So not too bad. But that's going on this weekend at Anderson Seed and Garden. So the cash sale has started today, and come in and use that cash and get the extra discount. Get it for half price.
Now, in addition to that, for the show today, we're going to be talking about some of the questions that you've had come up at the store over the last couple of days. As we're not taking any calls today, as this show is pre-recorded, but we are going to be answering a lot of questions throughout the show. And so if you've got a question, chances are we're going to be answering it today, because a lot of people are talking about the same things right now because of the weather weather and just the time of year that we're in.
You definitely want to stay tuned because we're going to be talking about wasps and hornets, how to get those under control, and spiders. We're really starting to see those popping up right now. Mildew on squashes. We could definitely talk about that as well, too. It is our last weekend for compost tea. I forgot to mention that as well, too. So compost tea, usually when school starts is when we shut off the brewers.
Okay.
That's coming up next week. So this is probably your last weekend to get compost tea. So you definitely want to come in and get your final fix for the year.
Yeah, fill them up. So just a couple days left.
Fix. Harvesting onions. We're starting to harvest onions. And like I said, a lot of people are starting to plant new grass. And we could definitely talk about how to be successful planting trees and shrubs as well, too,
Yeah.
since the sale's going on. That would be excellent. I just built a brand new kind of, it's not a video instruction, but it's more of a photographic, this is how you plant trees and shrubs.
Kind of like a slideshow.
It's like a slideshow, yeah. So it's got like our standard planting guide, so it's got all the regular information in there, but photo by photo, I walk you through the whole process. And we just got that put together, and it turned out amazing. It turned out awesome. So very excited about it. And I planted a tree this summer, and while we were getting things ready, it's like, we should kind of just like show people step by step how to do this. Yeah. And so we just took pictures all the way along the process on how to do it. It turned out awesome. Very excited. Cool. Yeah.
And so one of the things I'm sure you're probably getting questions about right now is, as we are coming through the harvest season, I think the heat has really had a huge impact on a lot of trees. I noticed it just around our neighborhood, a lot of the fruit trees, that they came on with a lot of fruit, but a lot of that fruit just never really developed.
Never
it's
developed.
Still really small.
And really small. Yeah, the fruit's just smaller this year, and it has a lot to do with the hot temperatures, the drought conditions. And so the trees and shrubs, actually the fruit trees just were not getting enough water through the early part of summer and through the latter part of spring. It was really pretty dry all through May. And so they were kind of stressed to begin with as they're setting fruit. And heavy production on a lot of trees. A lot of that fruit has fallen off, but since we've had just unusual conditions, the fruit just is small.
Yeah.
Our apricots were small. Our peaches look like they're smaller this year. Apples aren't looking too bad, though. Our apples are looking pretty good, and our pears look great. So it just depends on location, soil, the tree itself. Yeah, there's just a lot of different factors going on. And I know that this year is a year that we're going to probably this fall really fertilize a lot of our fruit trees, because they just haven't been able to get the nutrient this year, and that'll help them pick up and absorb and utilize the water a little bit better. So
going into winter.
Yeah, so we're planning on doing a little fertilization right now to kind of boost those up with just a really slow release nitrogen, nothing to make them grow crazy, but just put some micronutrients, some minerals out there, and just try and boost the strength of the trees a little bit before fall and winter sets in. Now,
is the best way to do that through a granule, or do you use the tree stakes, or which is
depends on the
easiest way to go?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the tree. So the stakes are good for trees that are probably at least 5 to 6 inches in diameter and larger. And so I like to use a granulated fertilizer because most of the trees that we've got in our orchard, this is my dad's orchard, they're a little bit smaller trunked. And so we're going to just broadcast the fertilizer on the ground down around the trees, make sure and water afterwards, so like right before we get ready to water, we'll put that fertilizer on, we'll give them a good soaking. And the fertilizer that I'm going to use is a natural, all organic fertilizer. It's got lots of beneficial microbes and microorganisms in there, but it's in a pelletized form, and so it'll be easy to broadcast in and around those trees, and it will really build the soil back up and give the trees what they need to help them through the wintertime. And then we'll continue watering probably until the ground freezes, but maybe only once every 2 to 3 weeks, just to put some good soil moisture out there for them so that they're not thirsty all winter long. This winter was hard on a lot of trees because if you didn't water really late into the fall, we had a really dry fall. We had a really dry winter. There was no soil moisture, and a lot of those trees, between the lack of snow, and we just didn't have any snow melt that penetrated and really hydrated the soil up, they kind of went for months without much water.
Now, if you've got a tree, as you were saying, some of the fruit trees just did not really develop a lot of their fruit, is it better just to pick that off now or let it continue its cycle, even though some of that fruit is just going to be really small?
Yeah. If you don't have too much fruit on there, I just leave it on, and you're going to have small fruit, but it's still going to taste really good. So it should taste really good still. But what a lot of people didn't do was thin their trees enough this year. So I had a peach tree that was just absolutely loaded with fruit, and I went through twice on it and probably eliminated 75% of the fruit on the tree when it was small, to try to encourage larger fruit, and has helped. So the size of the fruit's not too bad, but it's still smaller than usual. Yeah, it's still smaller than usual. And our nectarines are kind of looking the same way, but we really went through and thinned a lot of our trees out to make sure that they weren't overloaded with fruit because of the stressful conditions.
Yeah. We've been talking about trees. We've still got to talk about insects and just also some things that we're seeing in the gardens as far as harvesting goes. One other tree question for you. This is something that hits us
about
every year
as well too.
Yes.
We got to talk about
that
planting
as well. Suckers.
Yeah.
Cottonless poplar trees. They send up suckers this time of year.
And sometimes they're not cottonless either.
And they're those deceiving, those deceiving poplars.
But they're not really.
Best way to get rid of those suckers?
Get rid of the tree.
Yeah.
Would be the number one choice. But then you have to replace the tree. Poplars tend to have very shallow root systems, and wherever the roots come up to the surface, they just kind of send up a clone, basically. And if you use an herbicide on those suckers that are coming up, it can go down into the root system, spread through the whole tree, and actually damage or kill the tree. Yeah, so you have to be really careful, because we have ourselves on occasion we had a silverleaf poplar in our backyard. Really loved it. It was gorgeous. But all of a sudden it started sending up suckers all over, and my wife went and treated them, and it killed the tree about halfway. So I mean, we were going to take the tree out anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. But you got to be really careful spraying for weeds, because if you spray those suckers, it can definitely affect your tree as well too. The other option is to cut the suckers off right close to the ground, but leave a little bit of stem left on there, and then put a product on there called Sucker Punch or Sucker Stopper. And they're both essentially the same thing, just from two different companies. And you treat the fresh cuts with that sucker stopper, and what it will do is it will turn the cut black. It's basically a natural hormone that the tree, you can kind of communicate with the tree with it. So when you apply it to those fresh cuts, it'll tell the tree, hey, you've sent up enough suckers already this year. You don't need to do any more. And it will not send any more suckers up in that location. Yeah, it works great for trees that have suckers that come up right next to the trunk. But for a poplar or a quakey, where it kind of sends them up wherever they show up, it doesn't stop them generally in the whole area. It'll if you treat a spot, maybe a foot and a half by a foot and a half area, it's not going to send up suckers there, but 10 feet away, it could send up more suckers. Yeah, it could send up more suckers in that location. So the sucker stopper does a great job right next to the trunk. So you can just cut those suckers off once a year and treat it, and then you don't really have any for the rest of the year, and it really kind of limits them for the next season as well too. But where the tree is sending up suckers in multiple locations, it's kind of hard to stop that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard to stop
stopper,
that. Yep,
sucker punch.
Stopper does a great job. Just a reminder, we're doing our cash sale. Starts today. Trees and shrubs and flowering trees and roses and evergreens, they are all 35% off. But if you pay with cash, you'll get that extra 15% off, and you can get a 50% off discount on all of our remaining trees and shrubs. That's limited to what's in stock. That's not for us to order new things in. Yeah, so new orders, if we had to order something special in for you, then that would be regular price. But what we have in stock right now, half price if you pay with cash. And I've got a lot of people asking, how do I plant this time of year? How do I be successful? And there's a couple real key ingredients to being successful. And the first and probably most important one is to make sure you dig the right size hole. So if you have a tree in a pot that is 12 inches across, we want to dig our hole 2 to 3 feet across. And so you don't want to dig it just barely larger than the pot that it's in. but you want to do it 2 to 3 times the size of the pot. So if it's a 6-inch pot and 6 inches deep, you want to dig about 6 or 8 inches deep, just maybe slightly deeper, but then you're going to go 18 inches wide on your pot, on your hole when you dig it. And if you are in a location where you've got heavy clay soils, you've got maybe a hard pan underneath that's going to maybe trap and hold that moisture, you want to dig your hole higher in the middle and deeper on the sides. So your hole is not convex or not concave, but it's convex. Right. And so the plant will sit on the high part and the water will drain off
into the low part.
To the lower parts. Yeah. And so in a lot of parts of Cache Valley, we have very heavy clay soil.
Yeah.
So you take a tree out of a pot and you dig a hole for it and you put it in that hole, and basically you've just transferred it from one pot to another pot because the soil is so hard and compacted and then kind of crusty down at the bottom if you've got that hard pan underneath, and the water won't drain out properly. And so that's why we want to dig our holes extra wide, because it allows the soil to kind of dry out in between watering, so it doesn't just like stay ultra saturated, but it also gives the roots room to grow and the tree to really get established before it hits,
because you're breaking up that
the
clay.
Harder soil. Yeah. And so you got to dig those holes extra wide. When I teach classes and I show people this is the size of the hole that you need to dig, they just kind of like their jaw drops and their eyes kind of like open up and they're like, I've never planted that way before. It's like, well, this is going to make you 10 times more successful than you would be otherwise. So 2 to 3 times the size of the hole width-wise, depth about the same.
You don't need to go any deeper usually.
No, so you don't have to dig a 3-foot deep hole for a 10-inch deep pot. We're just going to go an inch or two deeper than the pot just so you can like put some nice soil back in there. So I take all the soil that I dig out of the hole and I set that aside. Sometimes I'll put it in a wheelbarrow, put it on a tarp or something, and we're going to condition that soil with a transplanting mix. So we're going to use like either the soil building conditioner, you can use a potting mix, you can use a tree and shrub mix. Mix that about 25 to 30% into your existing soil that you took out. If your soil's really, really heavy, you could go a little higher. You could go 50-50. Yeah, mix it 50-50 with it. And then what we do is lay the tree on its side, or shrub. We'll lay it on its side, and I'll kind of press down on the pot in various spots around the pot, and just to kind of loosen it from the sides of the pot, and then the tree should extract out of that quite nicely. Usually before I put the tree in there, I'll put a little bit of that soil back in the bottom to try and put some nice soil in there for the tree to have that extra moisture that the good soil will hold, and the soil's all broken up, and at that point we'll put some of the mic. I mentioned for our 5-year guarantee, you buy the mic and you buy the root stimulator. Well, we're going to use the mic at this point before we put the tree in. I'll hold the tree gently over the hole, and you want to sprinkle the mic all over the root system. So you want to cover the root system with it, and you'll end up getting some in the bottom of the hole. Then when you put the tree in, make sure and kind of adjust the tree so that your graft is above the soil line. So basically where the roots are in the pot, you're going to look and see there's going to be kind of a knob or a joint where the tree, where the root system really begins, and where the trunk is, where it's grafted on. We want that to be about 2 inches above the surface of the soil. So you're going to adjust your tree so that the graft is just an inch or two above the surface of the soil. You may have to add a little bit more soil. You may have to take a little bit out, whatever, to try and adjust the height of the tree in there. Get it nice and straight. And then at that point, I will start backfilling with the soil that we've conditioned with the transplanting mix. And I'll do layers, maybe 4 or 6 inches at a time. Take my foot and kind of pack that down a little bit around the tree. I don't pack it down really hard and tight, but just kind of compress it down so that when you water, it doesn't just completely, compress and the soil recedes away from the tree. So compress that down, and you keep doing that until you backfill it all the way up. And then water with the root stimulator. Kangaroots is our favorite. It's amazing. Water that saturate that soil all the way through so it's nice and moist. For a 5-gallon tree, we're going to use a couple gallons of water to really saturate that soil all the way through. For a bigger tree, you might need a little bit more. And that's about it. That's about it. digging the hole is critical.
Yeah, and
Digging
one of the
hole.
things we just don't even think about.
Yeah.
If I'd have known the hole was supposed to be that big, I may have reconsidered planting the tree.
Then I do a little bit of pruning too. So after I get it planted, I'll prune a little bit off the tree so that the root system, when you're planting it, can get damaged a little bit. Yeah. And when you're taking it out of the pot, it can get damaged a little bit. So if we take some of the excess branches off, then the tree won't have to work so hard to sustain itself with a smaller, maybe slightly damaged root system. So it'll get established faster
during those first few months.
Yeah, it works out really well.
Well, we're going to take a break. We've still got a lot more questions to answer, including what do we do with all the wasps that are all over the valley right now. Yeah. We'll get to that coming up. You're listening to The Garden Guide here on KVNU. I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News Update this hour. It's brought to you by the Duct Hunter. Well, as the Delta variant drives a growing number of COVID-19 infections and hospitalizations throughout the state, particularly among young adults and children, officials are being asked to reinstate a mask requirement for all K-12 schools. After flattening out over the past 8 months, state health officials say that Utah's daily new case average is almost 1,000, and most of the new infections are among the unvaccinated. Mo Hinkie with Voices for Utah Children says with no vaccine available for kids under the age of 12, returning to school without a mask will leave them vulnerable.
We should be adjusting as new data becomes available. And when the Endgame bill was passed, our caseload were heading in the right direction, our hospitalization was heading in the right direction, and the vaccine had become available. The new data is our caseloads are going higher, our hospitalizations are going higher.
Both Cache and Logan school districts have said that even though masks are not mandated, they are being recommended. And Idaho's budget surplus is now up to $1.4 billion. The State Division of Financial Management on Friday said it based the increase on a revised general fund revenue forecast that it does every August for the current fiscal year to account for current economic conditions and law changes. The agency says the surplus comes from a nearly $9 million ending balance from the previous fiscal year that ended June 30th, combined with another $513 million more than the forecast used by lawmakers to set the state's budget last May for the current fiscal year, which ends next summer. Well, some patchy, smoky skies continuing as daytime temperatures staying right around the mid-90s, overnight temperatures staying right around the mid to low 60s. Will Feelwright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Ant. After blowing a 4-run lead on the Mets in the 7th in New York, the Dodgers didn't panic, and the man in blue came through.
3-2 pitch to Will Smith from Familia. He swings and he hits a drive to left field. It is deep to the corner. It is gone. A 2-run home run. Will Smith.
On KLAC, Will Smith's 2-run homer in the 10th put Los Angeles ahead for good with a 6-5 victory, snapping the Mets' 3-game winning streak. The Athletic first reported that the Pac-12, Big Ten, and ACC have had discussions about forming an alliance, likely around scheduling, and to counter the SEC's growing power. ESPN's Adam Rittenberg has more.
Regarding the potential CFP expansion, that they'll be able to kind of act as a larger group against an expanded and more powerful SEC.
This is ABC Sports.
Let's see. We love being in Smithfield and making it easy for our friends and customers to do their banking. Hi, this is Danny Hansen, branch manager at Cache Valley Bank in Smithfield. If you don't bank with us, I invite you to discover what a great financial partner you'll find in Cache Valley Bank. I'm anxious to get to know you and invite you to stop by and say hello. Now celebrating our 2nd year in Smithfield, located on the corner of Center and Main, Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Homes aren't a one-size-fits-all, so why should your home insurance be any different? Farmers Home Insurance Packages offers coverage options that you tailor to fit you. I'm Wayne Elwood, and for over 15 years, I've been saving our Utah and Idaho clients hundreds of dollars a year customizing their home and auto insurance. Discover straightforward home coverage options and more by calling Wayne Elwood, 435-563-1600, or stop by our office at 65 South Main Street in Smithfield.
We are farmers. Bum, ba, bum, 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 bum.
By Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate. Want to improve the look and comfort of your home? See all the possibilities at UNI Furniture. Update your mattress and sleep better tonight on a Therapeutic Queen Comfort Top mattress for $4.99. UNI is also a full-line Maloof dealer. Add a Maloof adjustable base, 4 style choices there. In UNI's dining room section, lots of different brands with something always new to see. One popular set with a table and 4 chairs, $649. And for the family or living room, all kinds of fun new sofa loves and sectionals. If it's in stock or it's in the showroom, it's ready to take home. There's always a better buy at UNI Furniture downtown Logan.
The Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back. It is the Garden Guide on this Saturday morning. We'll feel right along with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden as we're answering questions about all things lawn, garden. We spent a lot of time in the last half hour talking about trees and shrubs.
Yeah.
We really got to get to talking about wasps, spiders, insects because, they just seem to be taking over.
Garlic. I almost forgot. Our garlic is here. So we're selling garlic already. So, usually it doesn't come in until about the 1st of September, and it's like ready a little bit early this year. So we've got some amazing new varieties of garlic. Usually we have about 14 or 15 varieties. This year I think we've got 20. So we've got 20 varieties of garlic, hard necks and soft necks, and I've got some organic garlic as well as some traditionally grown garlic. And so we've got lots of options, lots of flavors and heat. It's fun to grow different garlic. Yeah.
Now, and speaking of the things on sale at the store, it is the cash sale that's going on right now.
Yes. So we've got the cash sale going on right now. So trees and shrubs, flowering trees, evergreens, roses, flowering shrubs, they are all on sale for 35% off. But if you come in and you pay with cash, green bills with presidents on them, you get an extra 15% off, and you can get a 50% off discount. So it's a great time to come in and stock up, great time to plant. We've got a great selection of trees and shrubs in stock. They look amazing with the shade structure we've got. We've kept them looking great all summer long, and now's a good time to start digging holes and doing some planting.
And for those listening, we remind you we're not taking calls today, but we are answering a lot of questions that have come in over the last week over at Anderson Seed and Garden. And I guess, should we start talking insects? Because I know wasps are just a real problem right now.
Like every day I've got like 5 or 10 people coming in. They're like, I've got wasps all over the place. And they're building homes in my eaves of my house or in the barn, or they found a nest in the garage or whatever. So seeing a lot of wasps and hornets. It's that time of year. And spiders are kind of popping up as well too. So hobo spiders, aggressive house spiders. When the temperatures start to cool at night and we're having those nice warm days, they can feel that fall is starting to come.
And so they want to head indoors.
They're heading indoors and they're building homes and they're getting things set up. So wasps and hornets, you definitely always want to watch for areas where it's easy for them to build a nest. You got to watch the grill cover, and you got to watch the hot tub and the eaves of the house. And there's a lot of different places where they can set up shop, but just kind of watch for them coming and going, because you'll see the traffic and kind of be able to identify locations where they're trying to set up shop. And there's a couple different ways to get these guys under control. So I've got some aerosols that work excellent. One's a quick knockdown aerosol that you can spray, and if they're just barely starting to build a little nest and you just want to knock them down fast and not have to worry about running for your life, do it in the evening when the sun has gone down, but it's still a little bit light out. So 8:30, somewhere around there, and you can spray and it will knock them down almost instantly. So it's like a really quick knockdown. They'll fly about 1.5 feet and they'll just like plummet to the ground. And so that works really well. If you've got a bigger nest, then the foaming aerosols work great, because when they hit your target, then they start to foam up, and then the foam will like cover the nest, and anybody that comes in contact with it, the wasps, it will knock them down before they get aggressive and come after you. So the foaming sprays work really, really well if you've got a big nest and you just want to really kind of coat the whole nest and get rid of all the wasps before you knock it down. Again, do it in the evening when the sun's kind of gone down, and they'll be less aggressive and more of them will be home, and so you'll be able to knock down more of those wasps while you're at it.
And we learned at our home, we had a nest that was on one of our eaves. I climbed up underneath it and then tried to shoot it with the foam from underneath. Big mistake. Make sure you do it from from the side, because as soon as I hit that with the foam, of course, all of these wasps are coming down that are dying and falling down, raining on me. And so, make sure as you're climbing up on those ladders, find a way that you can hit it from the side. Yep. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself getting covered in
not fun to get covered,
withering.
But it sounds like it did a good job for you. Yeah,
and it's so. It's just it's like watching a train wreck, you know. You just watch these things and they just start to shrivel up and die, and it's so pleasing.
It's kind of satisfying. If you're doing ladders, make sure and use good ladder safety. Have someone hold the ladder for you. That's always nice. Yeah. We've had too many people falling off ladders lately, so we don't want to have any of that. So.
Now, one thing. What about the traps? How effective are those?
The traps work actually really well. So you've got like the Yellow Jacket traps. They come disposable or refillable, so you can like dump the dead wasps out and start all over again if you get the reusable one. But they are very attractive to wasps and hornets. There's another trap that's out there. It's called the Y trap, and it's for wasps, hornets, and yellow jackets, and it does a great job. So it attracts all three of those types of insects, and they will get stuck inside the trap, and it does a really great job. Yeah, great job. You can make your own types of traps. The disposal ones are awesome because you can just catch a whole bunch in there and then
add a little water.
Yeah, and it's got the bait inside there, and it's ready to go. And then when you catch a bunch in there, you just take it and throw it in the garbage. You don't have to worry about it again. So not too bad. But the best way to use those is to not put them on the porch or not put them next to the barbecue. You want to put them away from the areas where you're hanging out so that they are attracted to that location instead of to you.
Okay.
And so the mistake that I see most people do is they'll put the traps up and they'll put them on their patio, or they'll put them on their deck.
Right where people are
right
at.
Where you're hanging out. And so you're attracting them to the deck. You're attracting them to the patio, to the pool, wherever. You want to put them away from those areas so you're attracting them to a different location than where you're actually hanging out. Because once you bring the food out and you're having, dinner on the patio, they're going to come anyway because they can smell it too. They can smell the burgers and the hot dogs that we're grilling
from a mile
5
away
minutes before. They're going to come for that. So we want to attract them to a different location, and it's much more effective that way.
Okay.
You can kind of keep their numbers down. And then there's concentrates that do a great job as well too. The Bug Blaster is awesome. The Seismic that we use for hobo spiders and aggressive house spiders inside as well as out. Box elder bugs, spiders, ants, earwigs, elm seed beetles, ants. It takes care of all of those. Those will work really well for the wasps. Also, it's the ready-to-use sprays just are really convenient and easy because they're already mixed up, and the foaming one's amazing if you're trying to get a big nest. So those work great. But the traps do work really, really well.
Okay.
Yeah, and the fatal funnels are excellent. You use a 2-liter bottle, and you just cut a square, no, not a square, but you cut a cross hole in there, and you pop those in, and you can make your own attractant. So usually we'll use like apple juice or pineapple juice, maybe a little bit of tuna.
Oh, or some cat food.
Yeah, cat food works great too. They're usually like a combination of meat and sweet. They really like that. So, and those are disposable too. So you can basically just catch a whole bunch of them in a 2-liter bottle and then just
and knock them
toss it. Yeah. So there are some great options for the wasps and hornets. And we did talk about spiders last week on the show. So traps. I like to use the traps to kind of monitor the activity, what's going on. And then when I start catching a whole bunch of spiders, then I know it's time to spray again. And the Seismic is hands down my favorite. Microencapsulated, super safe to use inside, doesn't smell, doesn't stain. I'll spray in the furnace room and a little bit in the pantry and a little bit behind the garbage can and underneath the sink and in the bathroom. Anywhere where you think they're hanging out or where there's traffic, signs of spider activity, especially corners. They like to sit up in corners where there's boxes and it's dark and quiet and nice and try and get them and prevent them from coming inside by spraying around the house as well too. So not only do we spray inside, but we'll do the window wells, we'll do around all the windows, doors, seams, anywhere where there's vents. We'll try and prevent those guys from coming in. And it does a really great job. Lasts for 3 months.
It seems like another insect that people are seeing a lot this year, and maybe it's due to the drought, is ants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A lot of ants
huge
this year.
colonies of ants.
Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of them. Ants really aren't going to cause too much trouble. They're more scavengers, and so they're not really attacking your plants. And if they're coming inside, it's because there's food there for them.
Crumbs, or,
something that they're attracted to. Yeah, and so they're more of a nuisance than anything, but they can become really problematic. The Seismic does a great job for those. I mean, if you want something that is as safe as you can use, but super, super effective and long-lasting. I mean, we're talking 3, sometimes even 4 months is how long that will last, and it works on pretty much all kinds of insects that want to come inside and hang out in your house. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So a few things to look for if you've got the wasps, if you've got the insect problem. So let's get back to the garden, because you mentioned that you are seeing some fungus right now in the garden.
So we're seeing a lot of samples of squashes and melons and cucumbers that people are bringing in, and they've got powdery mildew. So mildew shows up when we have the right weather conditions. So higher humidity, which we have, warm daytime temperatures, which we have, and cold nighttime temperatures, which we're starting to get now. So usually we get that monsoonal moisture starts to pop up in late July, early August, and we're seeing that. And then we've got 80 to 85 to 95 degree temperatures, which is kind of normal for right now. In fact, it's been kind of a cool August so far. Yeah, it's been really, really nice. So super hot June and July. Cool August. Maybe we'll have a cool September too. Might have snow early. It's not unusual to have snow on marathon day. I've seen it snow on the Logan Marathon before.
And after the year we've had, I think we could say anything's a possibility.
Anything's possible. So we've got perfect conditions for mildew to show up on these plants. The problem is the mildew can really kill the plants in a short amount of time. Pumpkins especially. It'll just wipe out the pumpkin vines. So now's the time to spray a fungicide on there. Got some great options that are organic, natural, but do a great job. So I would say copper soap from Natural Guard, excellent. It's copper, very effective on all kinds of diseases, very safe to use, right up to the minute you're going to harvest the plants, just rinse it off and away you go. It's probably a lot more dangerous to lick pennies in your pocket than it is to consume something that's been sprayed with the copper soap. Yeah, the copper soap's pretty safe. And the complete disease control, also organic, natural, very effective, but super, super safe. You can use that right up to the minute of harvest. It's a natural bacteria, but it's a bacteria that attacks diseases, won't hurt people or pets or even beneficial insects. It just kills diseases, and it's been super, super effective for us. I use it in my vegetable garden consistently as a preventative, because it just stops a lot of the diseases before they even show up on the tomatoes, on the peppers, on the squashes, melons, cucumbers. It's awesome. So the complete disease control from Monterey. And otherwise, parts of the plants that are really affected, you can just cut those off. They're going to send out new leaves. It's just first part of August, we got lots of new growth. Had somebody in yesterday. They were concerned that their beans weren't producing, and I was like, well, they're pole beans, and they take 75 days to produce. When did you plant them? Memorial Day. It's like, all right, that's 75 days.
Still got time.
It's like you're right on. You got 2 months. They're going to produce like crazy for 2 months. Don't get too excited about it. And so plants are really, really starting to produce, and if we can prevent the diseases from killing the plants, you can get production for another 6 weeks. Yeah.
And also insects too, because I know we tried to stop a wave of insects early,
right?
But now it seems like we're getting a second wave of grasshoppers that are coming in, and so it's probably a good time to hit them again.
I had to spray my fruit trees a couple times because we got aphids, and there were some grasshoppers around our barn and into our orchard area. So I sprayed for grasshoppers there. But in my vegetable garden, I've just used the repellent. I've just used the repellent. I've done it twice, and I'm trying to decide whether to put it on again. But at this point, I'm not so concerned about bugs having a little nibble, So, but the repellent has done an amazing job. I have not had to spray one thing in our garden. We just used the repellent, and it worked awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of gardens, you mentioned also onions. coming on this time of year.
Yeah. So our onions, some of them are starting to die down. So we planted onions back in early April, and generally onions are about 120 days, and about mid-August, those tops kind of start dying down on their own, and the onions are kind of done growing. I know a lot of people's onions have kind of struggled this year because it was so hot so fast in June. So mine aren't as big as they usually get. They are smaller, but they still taste really good. So they're not as large as we would like them to be, but the tops are going to start dying down. And when that happens, generally by we're getting close. The 20th of August is when we kind of shoot for the onions to start dying down. At that point, if the tops aren't dying down on their own, you can leave them a little bit longer, but by the 1st of September, we should probably get the onions up. And the reason is we start to get those heavier rains in September, and you get too much moisture in the soil, and the onions want to keep growing when you want them to go dormant. And be ready to store for winter. And so at least by the end of August, we need to have stepped on the tops of the onions. So I'm not talking about stomping on the onions. We're just going to take our foot and just kind of press on the top of the onion, just to the side, and just kind of break the tops off.
Okay.
So the onions are still in the ground, but a gentle press with your foot, and you're going to break the tops on the onions. Don't stomp on them.
Right. But you're just basically kind of just breaking that connection.
Breaking that connection, and what's going to do is going to encourage the onion to start preparing for storage. And so we'll break the onion tops off and let them kind of really die down. It takes about maybe a week, 5 or 7 days. And then we'll dig the onions up, turn them upside down out in the garden. Do this when it looks like it's not going to rain for a day or two. So we'll dig the onions up, turn them upside down, expose the root system to the sun, and the sun's going to dry those roots out, and it's going to encourage the onions to prepare for storage longer that way as well too. So a couple days out in the sun, dry the bottoms of the roots off, gather the onions up, leave the tops on them, put them in a warm, dry location like in the barn or in the shed, or warm and dry, sunlight. We don't want the sun shining on them, just warm and dry. We're going to leave them there for 4 to 6 weeks. So in 4 to 6 weeks, the tops are going to really dry. They're going to die down. They're going to dry up. The root system's going to dry up. You're going to get those nice hard wrapper skins on the onions, whether it's a yellow or a white or a red onion. You're going to get that nice hard outer skin. And try not to bounce them around or bump them too much. I mean, this is a living thing.
Yeah.
And so the less we handle them and the less we bounce them around, the better they're going to store for the winter time. And so they're going to develop that nice hard outer wrapper skin. At that point, we gather them up, cut the tops off, put them in an onion bag. We sell onion bags at Anderson's, and burlap sacks for the potatoes as well too. So we've got those for storage. Put them in an onion sack, take them down the basement where it's cool and dry, and we'll hang them up out in the basement. And depending on the variety of onions, they're going to keep anywhere between 3 and 6 months for you. So you can use them all winter long.
And that way you reduce bruising to the onion.
Yep.
You also reduce them getting moldy.
Yep, and you get the air circulation. And the mesh bags are perfect because you get that air circulation through there, and the onions will just keep a lot longer for you. But if you don't do that curing process, they just won't keep well for you. They'll start to, by Christmas, they'll be sprouting and done. So
and you end up getting moldy and
we don't like moldy onions.
Okay, all right. So
no moldy onions.
Time to start watching those onions. Now, some of the other things that people have been asking you over the last week, as we have about 6 more minutes.
Okay. Corn.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We had talked during the break.
Yes.
We had talked about
the corn for a second. Talk corn.
So our corn's really starting to come on, and the corn earworms get in the corn right when those tassels are forming, and the silks have formed on the ear. So I've had quite a few people in, and they're like, "Do I need to spray the whole corn? What do I need to do to prevent the worms from getting in the corn? Because it's no fun to pull the husks back, and you got worms that have munched on your corn, and so you don't have to spray the whole corn. We just spray the ears and the tops of the ears where the silks were formed. And so where the silks are, there's a little moth that comes in the evening, and it lays its eggs right on the silks of the corn. And so then those eggs hatch out. The little larvae follow the silks right down into the corn, right into the ear. Because you look at it, you go, "How did that thing get inside there?" It's well, when they just barely hatch out and they're tiny, they'll follow the silks in, and then they will start nibbling on the corn, and then you get the big fat worms in there. If you see earwigs crawling all over your corn, they're after the earworms, not the corn. So
earwigs actually are a sign that you've got the worms.
You've got other insects. Yeah, so you get like the corn beetles that get in there, and the corn earworms, and the earwigs are after the other insects. And so if you see earwigs crawling all over your corn, it's because you have other bugs as well too. So if we treat and prevent those corn earworms from getting into the corn and the beetles, then you won't have any earwigs.
Show up either.
Yeah, you won't have any earwigs. And so the best way to do that is to use contact insecticide. So you could use permethrin or 7 would work great to stop those. If you want to go organic, I would go with spinosad. Spinosad's awesome because it's a natural bacteria, kills the larvae as they hatch out before they get into the corn, and it's, again, safe to use right up to the minute you're going to harvest the corn. But you just have to spray the ear and the silks.
Okay. So right about just mid-chest level, you could just run if you're going to use a spray. Just go along mid-level, get all of the ears of corn.
Spray right along there.
You don't need to worry about the tassels or down to the roots or anything.
Nope. And you want to do it usually just as the silks have really formed and the ears have really started to form as well too. And then again about a week later. So it's like our corn silks were really forming about 10 days ago. We've got maybe a week, and the corn's going to be ready to go. Just tons of ears. I planted a new variety this year. It's called Nirvana, and it's a super sweet bicolor. So it's going to replace Optimum, which has been our favorite corn for quite a few years. And in most cases, I've got 2 to 3 ears on each stalk.
Oh, wow.
It's just producing like crazy, and the ears look like they're going to be big. I've already kind of peeked in there, and they're like filled out all the way to the tip. But I did fertilize a lot this year with nitrogen. So my corn was a little short and not as productive last year, so I made sure to get a little heavier on the nitrogen.
Do heavier nitrogen.
Yeah. It just didn't get enough nitrogen last year. So corn looks amazing, and very excited to see how that turns out. It's so sweet. You can eat it with like raw. You don't even have to cook it.
And that's Nirvana.
Nirvana. Yep. Nirvana, new variety. So we're super excited to try that this year. So
okay. Well, we've got just 2.5 minutes left, and we do need to double back and talk a little bit about the cash sale.
Yep.
It's going on right now.
So we've got our cash sale starts today. And if you pay with cash, you'll get a 50% discount on our remaining trees and evergreens and roses and shrubs that we've got in stock. And if you pay with a credit card or a check, 35% off. So you're going to get an extra 15% discount paying with cash. And we do our cash clearance sale every year, starting right now. And some great trees and some really nice shrubs in stock still. Some pretty good roses, too. There's a few good roses out there out in the parking lot. But it's time to clear things out, find homes for them, and it's a great time to get out there and do some planting. And also got to remind everybody that the garlic has arrived as well, too. So we got about 20 varieties of garlic this year. I've got 6 varieties that are fully certified organic, and then 14 of our locally grown. The local grown stuff is organic too, but it's not certified.
Okay.
So yeah, the certified stuff's a little bit more expensive just because of the certification process. But garlic looks amazing. Got lots of hard necks, lots of soft neck varieties. Hard necks are a little more flavorful. Soft necks keep a little bit longer. So we've got both to choose from. And flowering bulbs like tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, they're going to be coming in a couple of weeks. First, right after Labor Day.
And the cash sale will continue until when?
Until everything's gone.
Okay.
so at least for the next couple of weeks.
Best selection right now, though, to get in and take advantage of that 50% off.
Don't wait. So it's one of our best sales of the year, and we've got our 5-year guarantee that we're offering with the trees and shrubs as well, too. So if you buy Mike and you buy a root stimulator along with your tree purchase or shrubs, and if they qualify for our guarantee, you can get that 5-year guarantee even on our clearance items as well. So,
okay. Yeah. So stop by Anderson Seed and Garden, take advantage of the cash sale going on right now, and join us again next week for the Garden Show here on KVNU. And as always, if you miss an episode of the show, you can always go back to our website, kvnutalk.com. Check out the podcast section. It's the demand section, and just select the Garden Guide, and you can listen to previous shows there. And we'll be back again next week, Mark. We'll see you then.
We'll be here.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, in cybersecurity, when natural disasters happen, we are there in space. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
The preceding was a paid program of commercial time on KVNU. The information, offers, and claims were solely those of the sponsor and not the opinions of this station, its affiliates, management, or employees. Stimulating talk you want. Information and news you need. News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.